We say to girls,
what is your podcast?
you can have ambition, but not too much.
Gonna be yapping and cackling away?
Naturally.
If I looked feminine, I would not be taken seriously.
I'm just a girl.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it.
If you wear pink on Wednesdays, we might just be talking about you today. Welcome to Two Girls on the Market. I'm Rebekah Daniels, coming to you from the evergreen state of Washington, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host across the Pacific Ocean, Miss Amber Haley in Hawaii.
Aloha.
And today we are talking about mean girls, specifically in the workplace.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting.
This is a topic sent in by one of our listeners, and it's something that I don't think we talk about enough, especially because like these days, nobody wants to be called a pick-me. We're all girls, but some girls like maybe aren't girls, and maybe aren't pick-me's. They're more mean.
Can't sit with us.
You can't sit with us. But are we allowed to say that? Is that being a girl's girl?
That's just quoting one of the greatest cinematic works of all time, the movie that is Mean Girls. Have you not seen it?
I have, but it's been like probably a decade or so.
Yeah. You have to follow the rules or you can't sit with us.
Yeah. Can't wear jeans. There's like skirts. I don't know. There was like a whole wardrobe.
Sweatpants, Becca. You can't wear sweatpants.
I'm currently wearing sweatpants.
You can't sit with us.
Well, one of us is a mean girl. One of us is not. One of us has burn book. The other one does not. I'll let you guys make your choice. Anyways, here's what our listener wrote in to us.
Okay.
In their topic request. They said, I think it would be interesting for you guys to have an episode that discusses how women treat other women. Because I've noticed when there's any sort of competition, women sometimes get a little catty and a little aggressive, or if they're trying to get the attention of a man, they throw you under the bus. And this is even in the workplace as well. This has happened to me. I had a coworker who acted fine when it was just her and I, but then when we were around anyone else, mostly males, she would cut me down or throw obvious shade. I chalked it up to insecurity. I'm just like, okay, I'll take a back seat. I don't care. My performance speaks for itself. But it still created a hostile environment to work in. I just wondered if it was something that's happened to you or something that you could maybe like touch on for a minute and talk about these women who have misogynistic tendencies of pitting against you like you're the competition to them instead of trying to further themselves with their work and not really having a sisterhood when you're another woman and you're in a very male-dominated field.
I have so much to say already.
Oh, so many things. So mean girls, jealousy in the workplace, definitely something that I've dealt with. Amber, is this something that you've had any experiences with this?
To be honest, this is an area that I have not personally had deep wounds in my life from. I haven't had in major ways I can think of maybe one exception with somebody who honestly was not that close to me. I haven't had deep wounds from other women or female friendships, but I will say I do think most women have. I do have a lot to say about the topic, though. Okay. I think that, just for whatever reason, better or worse, I have a lot of other wounds and trauma and things that trigger me. And for whatever reason, the Mean Girls thing hasn't dramatically affected my life. But I do like to talk about this kind of stuff, though, because I think it has a lot to say about our society.
Oh, well, go ahead and tell us all the things that you have to say about this.
Well, I talk a lot about female empowerment, and I probably talk more about the issues that I have with men than with mean girls in my life. I really am a girl's girl, not to say that people who haven't had issues with bullying or different issues with women aren't girls, but I just am not as triggered by stuff like that. I don't, for whatever reason, very much professionally, weirdly enough, or personally get very threatened by other. I don't compare myself to other women a lot. I don't know why it hasn't touched me as personally, but again, I think it's just because I get so much more triggered by men. So I what I'll say is a lot of times when I bring up stuff about gender inequalities in society, as you know that I do a lot. I love to talk about gender issues.
You?
Yes. And the patriarchy and how it's, had a ripple effect on society. So a lot of times when I bring up how certain behaviors, particularly maybe male behaviors or something like can affect things and ways we can create change. A big thing that gets like thrown at me almost as like a defense to almost like diminish the fact that the patriarchy is like a very real thing. We, as part of our society and our history and all of that, is people will be like, well, women are really mean to each other too. Well, women do this and women do that. So it's not just men. And it's like, okay, I've never been anti-male. I think acknowledging gender inequality is not anti or pro like one gender. But I will say I do see the Mean Girls effect being a direct consequence of patriarchy. Like that is my firm belief. I believe that because patriarchy is a system where men hold the power and women are more excluded from it, like the ripple effects of that is maybe not super obvious, but we're all conditioned, whether we're men or women, in that way. So I think the Mean Girls issue and the bullying and everything that comes out of it really is the direct effect of patriarchy. And I can dive into all of my reasons why.
Okay, yes. Tell us how everything is men's fault.
No. See, this is not everything is men's fault. Everything is just societal conditioning. It's not men's fault that patriarchy existed. It's not women's fault. It's not anyone's fault. This is just facts. These are just facts.
Okay.
So that is a point that I want to make very clear. It is not men's fault. In a patriarchal society, there are limited opportunities for women, right? So even when this listener who wrote in and they were talking about being pitted against each other, that I believe is a direct effect of patriarchy because of this limited opportunity for advancement, whether that's in careers or social standing or with money or education or all of these different things that we've seen over history in time. So when there's this hyper competitive environment, that affects women too. So that has like conditioned us to say like there are limited spots for us in this world. And so we are going to allow ourselves to be pitted against each other, and we are actually going to play into that too. Again, not even really women's fault. Like this is a lot of this happens, I believe, on a really unconscious level. And this can manifest, I really think, as like Mean Girls behavior, like undermining each other's accomplishments and sabotaging and all of that. Again, not men's fault. But
right. They have done studies and they have talked about this, that a lot of the female rivalry that you see within the workplace, it is triggered by this scarcity mindset. Well, there's only one seat at the table, so I want to make sure that it's my seat because I'm going to be that token female that's either on the board or that's in that leadership position. Now, obviously, this does come from it being, mostly male dominated fields. You can call it the patriarchy, whatever you want to call it. There's a scarcity mindset, and so it causes women to go against each other. However, I don't think it's the men's fault that women have a scarcity mindset.
No. And again, so each patriarchy is not men's fault.
Right. I'm just saying, but each individual, as they are in a situation, you have a choice on how you're going to react to that situation. So it's not just in these scarcity environments that we see these mean girl behaviors. This could even happen when it's just women involved, because some women do have insecurities and they get jealous and they're like, well, that girl's prettier than me.
Yes.
Or she was able to achieve the family lifestyle that I want. She was able to get pregnant before me. There's all these different things that we could have as a goal, and even in our own friendships, and that causes us to have jealousy and insecurity and push back and have kind of these secret rages against our friends instead of actually being happy for them.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, because of the way our society has conditioned us, women are often valued in terms of like appearances or our life choices. So I think that just really reinforces the patriarchy and our standards with each other, and is reasons why we do have a lot of these insecurities that can bring out that mean girl behavior for sure.
I know.
Even if there's no men in the room, this is just societal conditioning, that we all have. And, there is a level of we need to take responsibility for our behavior, obviously. But a lot of this just like happens unconsciously. I don't consider myself to be a mean girl, but I have caught myself, even though I really feel like a lot of my work in this world is to empower women. I have caught myself, even I'm sure with you in conversations where I'm cutting down another woman, and it has just come so naturally and easily. And I'm like, wait. This is what we don't do. It happens sometimes unconsciously.
Well, this happened kind of recently when we talked about how I was like, oh, I'm going to befriend my friend's girlfriend because that's what I do. is I want to make sure that I'm friends with everybody, with all of my friends' partners, especially if I think that they're going to be around for a while. And you're like, oh, she's not going to be your friend because you're prettier. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to base things off of like, why should we compete off of looks? I don't think that that should be a deciding factor of things. It's we're not in competition with one another.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, is that we do as women often see other women as our competition when it doesn't need to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like our looks should not be, those aren't our defining characteristics, our income, any of these other things. We talk about that so much in business, of not comparing ourselves to other people, not comparing where you're at in your career or in your business or your brand, your social media presence, not comparing that to other people. So why do we do it when it comes to like stacking up against other women in life? I know you haven't experienced people acting like mean girls towards you in the workplace, or you don't feel like you have. I have experienced that. And I think by today's standards of like a pick me girl, I think some people probably would have called me a pick me for a little while, because I did not really hang out with girls for like a long time. Like what? You're raising your hand.
Yes, I am new to this term pick me girl. Can you
Mm,
explain
yes.
to those of us who aren't super familiar? I only heard that within like the last 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. I forget that you're not on TikTok and I am. I'm where the kids are. So I have all the kids' terms. All right. So the term pick me girl, and I actually did get all the definitions because I'm like, people probably aren't going to know all these things.
It was a really nice way for you to say, I forgot that you're old.
I forgot that you're 3 years older than me. And so the term pick me girl refers to someone who seeks approval from others, particularly from men, by distancing themselves from or denigrating typical feminine traits in other women. This behavior can create division and perpetuate stereotypes that undermine women's solidarity and empowerment in work and social settings. Now, I don't identify with this definition, but because I did not like hanging out with girls, because I was like, they're a lot of drama. I would say that they're drama. They're not very nice. Guys are easy to get along with. We can joke around. And that's who I gravitated more towards in my like teens and 20s. Because I was like, I just deal with so much catty behavior and so much nastiness, so much two-facedness. I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Guys are easy. I know exactly what I'm getting. It's upfront and it's just joking. We joke around, we roast each other, and it's easy peasy. So I think some people probably would have called me a pick me because I didn't want to deal with girls. Which I know is kind of funny, given that like women of real, I'm all about the women now and I'm all about women empowerment. But I think part of that is because I had such negative female associates for so long. I'm like, I want to provide a space that is completely different from that. Like I had coworkers who keyed my car for no reason. And we're just like nasty, like lots of really nasty things. I had people who I had hung out with the guys, and there were a group of gals, and they sent their friend to become my friend so that she could spy on me and report back to the rest of the girls about everything that was happening. And it was just like crazy. I've had like really weird interactions with women throughout my life. So I have a lot to say about mean girls, and I'm so glad that you didn't have that experience.
Yeah, this was like one of those episodes where I think it's really good, our different life experiences, because I feel like I've had more experiences like that with men, and you haven't. Like you're like maybe more comfortable with men, or maybe were, and you have had that with women. So it's really interesting to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah. No, and so it's, I think, as you talk about, as you said before, you have the scarcity mindset. Some of that is societally driven. That is part of our culture. I'm not going to deny that that's a thing. At the end of the day, I do believe that everybody has personal responsibility that they have to take. And I struggle sometimes with the phrase girl's girl.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, one of my guy friends, he was like, I was dealing with this situation where my friend, who's a girl, she was standing up for another gal who didn't make the best choices in a situation, and he had called the gal out on it. His gal pal, who is their mutual friend between him and this other gal, was taking the girl's side because she's like, well, like I see your point, but like I'm going to be a girl's girl even though she's wrong, because I want to stand up for her. And I don't think that that's the right move to make either. We talk a lot about men have to keep men accountable, and women have to keep women accountable too. Like, we can't just say, oh, it's okay, like all this bad behavior of like us trying to swing to this other side of the pendulum where we had a lot of female rivalry. And I think we've all agreed that we don't like that. We don't want to have a mean girl culture and a mean girl environment. So now we've swung to the other side of like, well, we're all going to be girls, and women can do no wrong, and everything is, well and good, and we're going to be all against the men. And I don't think that that's the right way to handle things either. There's got to be this middle ground between the two of mean girls, everyone's in competition against one another, and we're going to turn a blind eye to all things just because it's a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying, because you know what? There are impacts of mean girl behavior, and we can't ignore that. People can suffer like bad psychological effects that they take with them for the rest of their life. It can really affect somebody's self-esteem. The way that we all treat each other really matters. It really matters. And so these can have ripple effects on people's lives, their careers, their productivity in the workplace, their personal relationships for the rest of their life. Like, I know close female friends that I have who have sometimes been triggered by a certain thing, and it's like opened this wound, and I'm like, where did this come from? And then they've opened up to me like, oh, I've been really stabbed in the back by women. So it's not something that we can just gloss over. It is something that we do need to like look at and take personal accountability for as well. Now, that being said, I do have some girlfriends, and like with you, Becca, it would depend on the severity of what was being discussed. But if you were like, the sky's green, and we were in a group of a bunch of guys around, I'd be like, yeah, the sky's green. Like, I don't care. Ride or die.
Okay, yeah, and I would expect you to be my ride or die. But if I like went out and slashed somebody's tires,
yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I think there's like a time and a place to address that. I don't know if like in a group setting, I would throw you under the bus more. I think, you could do it like, hey, Becca, is there something going on with you? Like, I just don't think that's like the best thing for you even to be out there slashing tires. It always comes back to slashing tires with you, I've noticed. Your analogies.
I figured since it was recent, I was like, this is still fresh in the mind.
Yeah.
Because sometimes women slash tires. I have never slashed tires. No plans to slash a tire. And again, don't slash tires. If you take anything else, if you take nothing else away from our podcast, do not slash anyone's tires.
No, we're putting it on a t-shirt. In fact, don't slash tires, start a podcast.
A slash tire.
Yeah, just start a podcast.
I love it. All right. Let me share another mean girl anecdote from the workplace. So my mean girl workplace drama started with people keying my car. That was the first one. I think that was like a super unhealthy environment. That was when I worked in hospitality. And that was also when I learned that you can't act like a man, because if you say things the same exact way a man does, or if you are strong and forthright and all these different things, people don't like that from women. I was like, oh.
Even women don't like that from women. It's uncomfortable.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, they think it's even worse. They're like, oh, what was I called? Snippy?
It's an internalized sexism that we even have amongst ourselves.
Yeah. And so I saw that a lot in that industry, which was one of the reasons that I gravitated towards real estate and being an independent contractor. And I get to choose who I'm going to work with and not work with. And that includes clients and colleagues. Well, when you are at a traditional brokerage, you're all in the same office, which is great. If you're a people person like me, like I really do enjoy being with people, but like you tend to form friendships. And within those friendships, and you're going to the office, there does tend to be like a little bit more of that office politicking that goes on, for better or for worse. And I hate office politics. I'm not here for it whatsoever. I don't do politics in the office anymore. And some people say like, oh, you still got to play the game. And I'm like, I really don't care. I don't think that that's going to get me any further along with our brokerage. And if it does, that's just not for me. Anyways, so we have a conference. We go to Vegas. And this is my first time going to Vegas. We had a little bit of a snafu with the rooms. I was supposed to share a room with a couple of the other gals. And I ended up not letting them know in time that I was going to go. So they gave my spot to a different gal. And I was like, no problem. I'm going to get my own room. Not a big deal. It actually worked out way better because I had more space. Even though I wasn't staying with them, it was fine. Well, because I traveled at a different time, trying to link up with them was really difficult. And so I like eventually linked up with them at the first club, and the vibe was just kind of weird. And then the next day, like, okay, are we hanging out? Like, what are we doing? I'm trying to link up, get the itinerary because I'm staying at a different site, and I'm getting no response for like really long time. And you know, when you can tell that you're not wanted somewhere, that was the vibe that I was getting. And I was just like, okay. We did eventually link up on the second day. So when I was alone with the gal who was one of my best friends, I asked her, I was like, hey, what's going on here? I feel like there's something happening. She's like, oh, you're all my friends. I don't want to get involved. I'm like, okay, closest friend who I've known for so long, you're really not going to tell me anything? And she's like, well, these two feel some type of way, but like, I don't really know what's going on. I haven't done anything. I've just been existing. So I don't know why there's a problem. So me being the adult woman that I am, I don't like having conflict with anybody. I'm going to go and I'm going to try to make peace and try to resolve whatever the situation is, because that's what we do as adults. We try to resolve conflicts. So I went up to each of those girls individually and I was like, hey, I feel like something has happened. And I'm sorry. I don't know if I offended you or if I've done something to upset you, but I just wanted to like make peace. And they're both like, oh no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like nothing's wrong. Nothing's happened. Well, then they got mad later on. I find out that they were upset that I approached them and asked them what was going on. And that made the whole situation worse.
Oh,
I was like, okay. At that point, I was like, I'm not even going to try with these girls. I'm just going to go and I'm going to make other friends. And I made friends with other people from the other offices in other states. And I was networking and I had a great time. And they went off and they did their own thing. I had met a guy while I was there who I was spending the whole time with. This is the first time I met somebody at a conference that I like hit it off with. So we're hanging out the last night and I link up with the girls and I was like, hey, you know, we haven't really hung out. Like, let's try it again since apparently we're all on good terms. And so and he comes with me and one of the girls sees that we're there. And so when I'm over playing pool, she's talking to him at a table. I don't think anything of it, but he tells me later on that she was hitting on him and like tried to get his number. And she was like, oh, you should leave Rebekah and come back with me.
oh. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty toxic little work group there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, super
Yeah.
healthy. And then as they left and he didn't go with her, as she leaves the bar, she's like, F you, Rebekah. You're such an effing
Oh my
bitch. And I was like,
gosh.
what just happened?
Yeah.
What is going on? So those are my mean girl experiences.
Yeah, I mean that would really, I think, make me feel like I have like a lot of walls always like kind of moving forward, especially in the workplace, because when you have a dynamic like that just like really hinders like so much opportunity to like have collaboration and trust and like, you know, beautiful things form with like a business relationship and personal friendships. And wow, I'm so sorry that happened. That's such a bummer.
You know, it's one of those things that happens. And I know, like, you know, our listener, she has her experience. She's not in the real estate industry. I've had my experience in the real estate industry. They've written articles about that. They do studies on this whole thing. It's not like it's a one-off situation. Like, this is obviously something that is going on. It's something that needs to be addressed and figured out and fixed. Obviously, we can't fix other people, but we can choose who we associate with. And so for our other listeners who have experienced mean girls in the workplace or in school or in your friendships, and you, like, we all, I think, have a girl like that we've been around. And Amber, I know that you say that you haven't really experienced that, but I feel like you have.
I have, but
And I think it probably didn't. Well, based on our conversations, I think of that one specific person.
There's one
And there were
specific person.
there was a big negative impact from
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And we're not going to get into that whole thing. But, these situations, they do have negative impacts on people. Like you said, it does
Yeah.
cause walls to come up. It's not the end all be all. It doesn't mean that you can't have female friendships because, hello, look at me today, a success story in female friendships and empowerment. And I think it's a matter of recentering your focus on other people. And it's the same thing when it comes to dating. Instead of trying to make that toxic relationship work, you move on to the next thing. So instead of trying to make that toxic female friendship work, you move on to the women who are like-minded, the women who are focused on camaraderie and collaboration and building one another up.
Yeah. I think it's important for us to be able to like recognize this mean girl behavior and understand the motives behind it, so that we can have the appropriate response to it. I think if we can kind of understand why women are being a certain way, that will help it like not affect us maybe as much. I think for me, one of the ways women can combat this is to like really, really develop like a strong sense of self-worth so that we're less susceptible to the effects of the mean behavior. So like building our confidence and using that kind of like as a buffer when this comes up. It's really hard. But then also, something that I'm not that great at in life, but I'm working on being better at is like really establishing boundaries with people. And I think that can be something that helps negate mean girl behavior. Like you can just remove yourself from any situation that is not what you're okay with. Like, same thing with like when we're dating men. There are certain things that we just should not accept in our life and boundaries we should set. And then I think another like really good thing is to find the girls who aren't mean and use them, like find that support system who is reliable. And whether that is, women in your workplace who you do connect with, or if that's like getting, professional help, like a therapist to like work through the trauma. I've had to do that with other areas of my life and just getting some help so that you can work through the emotions, get practical advice, and then, expand your world, reach out, because then you start to really see what really matters and what is just, the outcomes of societal conditioning and all of that. And that when people act like that, when people key somebody's car and stuff like that, that is not normal. That is not like a social norm we should accept. That really is about that.
Bad. It's almost as bad as slashing someone's tires.
Yeah. Yeah, and what did I say? Did I not say slashing tires?
You said keying somebody's
car.
I mean, they keyed my car. They didn't slash my tires, but like,
yeah. Yeah. I think it's really, really important to be able to develop a sense of when somebody treats you outside of like what is acceptable in your boundary, truly. Like I can think of times that women have come up to me and given me attitudes, and I'm thinking like, why has that not affected me as much as certain behaviors, unwanted behaviors as men? And the reason is because I don't know, in my mind, I really understand that that's about them. That is about them, and it's not about me. It's not a reflection of me. I have more work to do when it comes to men and not taking that in and being triggered and invalidated. But with women, for some reason, I can just easily recognize, maybe because I'm so in tune with the patriarchy. I don't know. But I'm just like, it's not about me. That's about something going on with them. They're insecure. They're jealous. They're whatever. It's not always those things. Maybe they came from an environment where that behavior was encouraged or acceptable. Like for some reason, it can just roll off my back a lot easier because of that. So I think that is a good takeaway for somebody who is like struggling with a lot of mean girl behavior and dealing with the impacts of it, is to just always tell yourself, even when it's hard, be like, that's just not about me. It's not about me.
Yeah.
I don't take any of that in. I do not receive that.
And as women, I think we can do a better job of lifting one another up in those spaces instead of looking at it as like, well, there's only one seat available at the table, so I'm going to make sure it's mine. It's pushing other people out of the way, if you will, or adding seats to the table. Why is there only one? There should be more than that. And that's something that I really appreciate that you are kind of trying to spearhead And it's something that we've talked about we talked about this in our bonus episode to come out about the diversity of speakers at the different events that we go to, and wanting to make sure that there's eyeballs on that so that we can start addressing those things instead of being like, well, I'm going to be the woman that's there at that event speaking. I'm going to be the only one there. It's
Yeah.
okay, how can we get, there's 10 speaker slots. How do we get 5 of those to be women?
Yeah, I think we have to be intentional about moving the needle. And, whether that is by intentionally selecting certain speakers that so everyone can feel represented, or by supporting female empowerment programs or groups, like just having that solidarity to kind of dismantle these behaviors and these norms and these standards that we see every day. So women supporting women is going to be a huge, huge thing in getting rid of this mean girl culture that has affected so many people.
Yeah, because it's internalized misogyny.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it really
Let's be
is.
real.
It really is.
We
And-
don't need to be acting like that. We need to be collaborating. We need to be loving one another. And again, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about our company, our brokerage, and the group of women that we have, our girl group, which people know that we have a group of women who support one another. And they're like, I don't know if you got these texts, you probably did, of people like, hey, I have a gal that's coming to this event. I want her to meet y'all. I want you to make sure that she's included, because they know that that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And we do our best to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's an easy thing for me to do, because really when you can create those bonds and be there for other women, it's like the greatest gift that you could give yourself too. Like what you get back is truly so amazing. The support you get back, the sisterhood you get back. Like it has been women my entire life who have me in my lowest moments. It's always women. And so I think when we can understand the value too that we get from each other, it really, really, there's like, why would I ever want to be mean to women? Like, why would I participate in that mean girl culture or let it invalidate me once you really, really see the value of forming those bonds, putting those walls down, realizing we're not in competition with each other. We also have all these TV shows and media that portrays a lot of the mean girl culture. Think about even those real estate shows on television where it kind of glamorizes the mean girl, the office drama, the case, the trivial issues. Like it really, really glamorizes it. And I think that's an inherent part of why we see so much of that in female behavior as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back to your favorite thing, the fairy tales, the Disney princesses, all the princess stories. There's always this female rivalry that's going on. Look at Snow White. Oh, who's the fairest one of them all? It's this queen wants to be the most beautiful one, and then there's somebody else that's prettier than her, according to whoever, and now she's going to kill her. And you look at Cinderella and her ugly stepsisters and her ugly stepmother. It's always this weird rivalry based off of aesthetics that actually doesn't matter, because this is not the most important part of us. Our external views is not the most important part of a person. It's your heart and your mind, like what's inside and how you're putting that out. That's what actually matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know what? I hope that everybody who has been through a really bad mean girl experience, or maybe you were really, really bullied growing up by other women, I hope that you can.
I had those rude girls at this last event. It's like unbelievable.
Wait, there were mean girls?
Yes. They were rude. They were rude girls.
Oh.
And I was just like, okay, you're dead to me. No.
Maybe I'm just walking around in a bubble
you're in Amber world.
I'm in a bubble of delusion, but you know what? Everybody come up and join me. Like my armor, I am walking through Barbie land at such a high vibration that I just repel the mean girl. Like it's probably coming at me. I don't even feel it. Don't worry. I have other problems, but I don't even see it. I'm just like, high five.
I think, and this is where it goes back to, this is an area where I feel a little bit more insecure on, is my female friendships, versus like when I'm dealing with men, I feel a different way. And that, you and I were kind of reversed on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I put myself out there to be friendly with another gal and she rejects me or is rude to me, it hurts my feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even now, even though like I have so many amazing like female friendships, I think it takes me back to like those little moments. And I'm like, oh, this is still kind of like a scar that you're now pressing on or
Yeah.
scratching against. And it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
you took me back.
That's definitely more the feeling that I get with men, what you get with women. I can think of one time, like truly in my whole life, besides that one-off scenario. Actually, we don't even need to talk about that one at all. That one
Okay.
actually is a male driven at the core, too.
And it all comes back to the patriarchy.
Oh, the patriarchy. One time where I did internalize, where it was just palpable that I showed up at this party. I'm a very extroverted person. Like I love meeting new people. I love sharing the human experience. I'm very friendly with like people of all genders. I love getting to know men and women and everybody. And I do remember at this specific party, there was this one woman where it was like we had these mutual friends. We like just had a lot in common. Like on paper, we should have clicked. And I just felt an immediate like, this woman does not like me. Like I've never felt it so strong. And for like the rest of the night, I was like a little bothered by it. I was like, that's just so like, why? Like, but it didn't really affect me deeply because I don't have those deep wounds. But I do remember just being like, wow, that's weird. Okay. And then I was like, meh.
All right. I just remembered something else. I was pretty nervous before you and I met, because we were going to be sharing the room. And I was like, what if this girl's a mean girl?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't think you probably even picked up on any standoffish vibes from me. And that's good. I probably did have I was probably a little standoffish though to begin with.
Yeah, I think I was in such a same kind of headspace of anxiety for other reasons that I probably didn't pick up on like any vibes other than that I was feeling an insecurity based on what was going on with me.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah. So just know, to any of our listeners, if I seem standoffish at first, it's not you, it's me. I'm trying to pick up the vibe of like, is this someone that I can vibe with or not? And I don't know. And I get shy and nervous around women.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, that's not a side of you that I feel like I've heard you talk about, but that I have seen that much. I think because of whatever reason, we got really lucky and we bonded very quickly and didn't feel like there was like any barrier. Or if there was, it was so short-lived, probably because of the circumstances. So I just haven't seen like that standoffish, side of you where you have a little bit of walls up with women.
Oh, I've had so many girls who are like, oh yeah, I thought that you were a bitch. And then I got to know you a little bit better. And I realized that, oh no, you're just quiet. And like, you're actually really nice. So I'm like, yeah, thank you for that, I guess.
I mean, that might be a little bit of the internalized like sexism too, because I do have one really, really good friend who it took us a couple of years to become as close as we are because her personality type is so different than me. I would say she has like more masculine energy in that she is very like blunt. I don't know. I think that's a more masculine quality. Maybe not, but
you're describing me.
But she's very blunt. And I thought I was like, she doesn't like me because it came off like colder, but that is like internal sexism in a way because I'm like, I wouldn't think that about a man. I'd be like, oh, he's just being a man. See, that's why I thought it was a masculine quality. I'm like, they're just being a man. It's nothing. But then when a woman does it, I'm like, oh, well, she's being rude and she doesn't like me. But that's not true. It's just she has a different personality type. Yeah. And she's very direct and I'm not. And I I was like feeling like, oh, like insecure and offended by it a little bit. And then I just realized that that's who she is. And that's just like when women are often called like cheer when they are in charge and they're acting the exact same way that boss man CEO would act. We kind of as a society tend to say like, oh, she's bossy and bitchy. When it's like, no, she's a boss. Like, this is just how it is. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's kind of like that.
I think one of the reasons that when you have those female friendship wounds, that maybe it hurts more or like we have more of this is because, at least for me, I think this is why it stuck with me so much more is because I knew deep down that female friendships were supposed to look like sisterhood and we're
Mm.
supposed to be like this really special thing. And so when I wasn't having that in my female friendships, it felt very wrong. And I'm like, oh, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like, yeah, of course a guy is probably going to hurt your feelings, break your heart, or like maybe not be there for you the way that like a sister would, because he's just a guy. You know, he doesn't have emotions and feelings in the way that we do. Not that they don't have emotions and feelings, but of course they don't see things the same way. So when a girl does it, I don't know. I think it like cuts in a different way.
Yeah.
But again, now we're beyond that. You know, there is improvement. And I have really beautiful, amazing, close female friendships in the workplace, outside the workplace, that are like what I had always been wanting. And it was just a matter of finding the right people who have that same idea of collaboration and empowerment and building one another up, and not a spirit of rivalry and like pitting against each other.
Yeah. And I imagine it takes a little bit of time when you've had those past hard experiences to like trust your female friends in a way for a while. And so hopefully, you know, when you do find and attract the right people, probably by setting the right boundaries, and you have enough shared history with them where you can kind of just like realize like these women, they're not a frenemy. They're not pretending.
Right.
They genuinely are there for you.
Can we please do away with frenemies? Like, why
Yeah.
is this a thing? Don't be friends with your enemy. If someone is not nice to you, don't be friends with them.
Yeah.
Let's strategic partnerships with trash people. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah. We don't
In
need to keep
2024,
your
it's done.
your friends close and your enemies closer. It doesn't really serve
Immediately,
anybody.
no. All right, so let's talk about how can we avoid mean girl behaviors, and then also how can we identify mean girls, or at least not, or like try to foster environments that are not mean girl-esque.
Yeah. I think for me, it really comes down to talking more and having more conversations about like why this behavior is taking place. And for me, like any work is going to start with myself. So I've had to do a lot of like work on myself over the past few years, and realizing, you know, ways that I haven't been the greatest to other people. Maybe I haven't been the greatest friend. Maybe I haven't been the most supportive woman, and seeing like what in me is causing me to do that. So I think it's great if we all start with ourselves. And then I think, you know, like I said earlier, for me, recognizing it is basically anytime I get a reaction that doesn't sit well with me, I really do just say it's not about me. If I'm showing up as a good person, you know, I'm not perfect, but if I'm showing up, doing my best as a good person, trying to better the world and support other people, and I get a negative reaction, none of what's coming at me is about me. So just really like tattooing that on your heart, that it is not about you. That is, use that as a shield around you, and that's a symptom of something else.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe you can help make things better with whatever this issue is going on with this other person. And maybe you can't. Maybe you just have to walk away and say, you know, like, that's not a friendship for me. That, you know, just walk away.
Yeah, I agree. I think on the identifying mean girl behaviors in ourselves, like you said, it does start with yourself. So figuring out, okay, why am I not liking this person? What is this feeling that's getting triggered inside? Is it jealousy? Is it this? Is it that? And figuring out the root cause of that. Because until you can figure out what's the root of that jealousy, what's the root of that insecurity that's getting triggered, it's always going to get triggered. And that's going to cause you to not react correctly with this other person. Same thing in your relationships. Like, no matter what type of relationship it is, like, we need to figure out what's causing those icky feelings and address them inside ourselves. Not to lean into them and not bury them, because burying it doesn't actually fix the problem.
Yeah. And I've noticed too that in the times that I have caught myself either thinking or saying like a kind of like a nasty gossipy thing, which I'm not going to pretend that I haven't done that. I'm a human, and I've caught myself saying or thinking something negative about another woman and like kind of cutting her down. I can, if I'm really honest and I look at what I'm saying, it's usually cutting her down about something that I am insecure with in myself, or a problem that I have. So if I'm like, oh my gosh, that woman is being so pathetic and embarrassing and like throwing herself at that guy and like how embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Like, and if I like go to that, like stoop to that, it's probably because like I have been that woman and I'm embarrassed for myself. It's, a mirror back at my own, the like imperfection and ugliness that our humanity, unfortunately, we all carry to some extent. So yeah, I mean, for me, that's how I can like really, really see it in myself and determine like what's like mean girl behavior. And that's why I don't take it as personally on the other end.
Yeah. So like if you dislike somebody for something that's a valid reason, like they're a mean person, okay, you can dislike them. If you dislike somebody because they've had more success than you, they have a different status in life than you, they have a different appearance, or like because there's a jealousy element, that's not okay. That's something you have to address. And that's a you thing. And then I would say for the being able to foster non-mean girl environments or how to get out of those environments, I think finding other women who have that same spirit of collaboration and camaraderie and want to build each other up, finding a mentor who is doing what you want to do, finding those strong women, or maybe not as strong. I don't know. Everybody has a different idea what strong is. So I think finding that woman that you admire and look up to and looking to them for mentorship and finding a group of women around you that are going to build you up and not engage in this false female rivalry. I think that's super key.
Yeah.
And that's how we will continue to build that. But if you surround yourself with people who are petty, that's just going to continue to build this environment and something that you're going to have to continue dealing with as well. For me, those aren't the types of people that I gravitate towards. I move away from that type of stuff. That saying, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. So let's all be great minds. Let's discuss ideas, not discuss other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see a lot of, honestly, since we talk about like the real estate workplace and stuff, I actually have seen a lot of mean girl behavior. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just totally living in Barbie land and like it doesn't exist. I can think of a very specific example. And I know this is like being a little choppy, sorry, but it's very relevant. I can't believe I didn't think of it till now, just now. But so there is a lot of it in the real estate industry. I think it's like a sharky industry anyway. It's kind of an industry where people are kind of undercutting each other and cutting each other down. But I remember when I got newly licensed in a certain market and I was out on broker caravans and like meeting different people, and I encountered this woman who is now a really, really good friend of mine. But she showed up at like this beacon of light at broker caravan, and she was wearing this like really, really stylish outfit. And you could tell like, she looked good. She felt good. She made eye contact. She was happy. She was friendly. She was like all the things you want to be when you show up and go to work. And that if I had a little girl that I would want to teach her are like the things you should be. And the way I did see other women, friendly to her face and then gossiping and saying catty remarks and cutting her down and being like, oh, she used to be a model and she used to be this and she used to be that. Like that I truly could not understand because I'm like, she's not showing up here being mean. By the way, she is a plus size model setting better beauty standards for women. Like however you feel about models, okay, but we all buy our clothes from somewhere. It was just like, oh, little catty thing over little catty thing over little catty thing. When I'm like, I don't, are you guys not seeing what I'm seeing? I'm seeing like this woman who is a role model here and you guys are cutting her down. And I never understood it. And I even heard people very close to me like making little snide remarks. And it's always really bummed me out. And the way that I combated it was I just truly could recognize so clearly, especially because it wasn't directed at me. I'm sure things have been directed at me in different ways, but it was directed at her. And it's easier to see other people's value, I think. I was just like, wow, these women are so threatened and jealous that they're cutting her down. And so I big fat never listened to any of it. I befriended her anyway. And what has grown out of our friendship is like one of the most beautiful, meaningful relationships of my life. And we have formed like such a strong bond as like two female real estate agents that support each other that now a lot of those same women who probably cut me down, but I was, just not even
Unaware.
taking it in, not receiving any of it, but definitely cutting her down, are now like trying to be friends with us because they're like, oh wait, we missed out on this awesome female bond that they had. So I'd caution you, if you're one of those people who immediately gets threatened by other women and wants to cut them down, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on something really amazing because of your own insecurity. And I'm not saying that to judge anybody else. We all have insecurities and we all act in ways that we shouldn't. And that's just part of being human. But yeah, that is like a one really, really distinct memory I will have of that like first broker caravan, and just hearing all these whispers and then just kind of always hearing that. And I'm like, okay, of course, like, because this woman is all of the things that we maybe see lacking in ourselves, that we have to cut her down. Yeah.
Well, Amber, I want you to know that you have my permission to call me out if you see mean girl behavior, or if I'm saying some catty things, and I hope I have your permission to do so as well.
Yes, you do. You do. Although if you could just also, though, sometimes like unapologetically, delusionally have my back in the moment, if it's not that mean,
every
and
day.
then call me to the side and be like,
I
Amber,
do that. No.
the sky is green.
Absolutely,
Amber says the sky is green. It's green, and you will
Yes.
have my back on that.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Listen, I mean, I told you that one event was a good idea. Do it for the plot. That's coming up later. Little Easter eggs.
Easter egg.
Hey. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I'm glad we could dive into this. I know we didn't dismantle the patriarchy in this episode, but maybe in the next one we will. But in the meantime, we will do our part to combat mean girl behavior and all become girls, but not to the point that we become as bad as the patriarchy. I don't know. At the end of the day, we're all just girls in the market. We're here to support one another, to provide love, empowerment, collaboration. Find yourself a good girls group that lifts you up.
That's
and
right.
Know that we are also here. We are part of your girls group across the interwebs and the podcast waves.
Yeah, no mean girls allowed. You can't sit with us if you're mean.
Yeah. If you're a mean girl, you can't sit with us, but you can wear whatever color you want, and you can wear sweatpants because I'm wearing them right now.
That's right.
All right. Well, we will catch you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. Bye.